Hey guys, my name is Mike, and if y'all have never seen this channel before, this is just kind of like a random catch-all channel for everything. Has no clear direction whatsoever, so this is just completely random stuff. But I wanted to talk to you all day about me, I guess mental health, addiction, and some stuff that's been going on with me lately. This is basically like a psychological analysis of myself. I think it's long overdue, guys. So, take you into my world real quick. Yeah, we should go upstairs for this. So, again, my name is Michael, and for y'all that don't know me, I live in the Central Texas area. 45 years old. Not sure what I want to be when I grow up yet. Hadn't figured that one out yet. And I have a lovely wife named Olivia. And we've been together now about 11 years. And yeah, so basically what this video comes down to is letting y'all know that I've figured out that I have some serial behavior. I'm a serial hobbyist. Everything that I do, I get into like real seriously, and I just always find like new hobbies to do. So anything I do, I just spend a bunch of time and effort and money on it. And it's weird. I've realized over the years, like I'll get into a hobby and then I might lose the attention of that hobby after a while. And then I just start a new hobby, do that for a little while, and then I get bored with it and I want to do something else. And you know, I think this all stems from the fact that I have some, other stuff going on in my head that I'm trying to just, avoid. I'm trying to occupy time. I'm trying to stay busy. I think it's kind of maybe goes back to that somewhat of the saying of, what is the saying? Too much idle time is the I don't know, is the hands of the devil or something like that. I forget exactly what the saying is, but basically saying that you should always stay busy so you don't, think of bad stuff or do bad things or something like that. So I think that, some stuff in my past has led me to some of the things that I do now. I had some trauma in my life when I was younger. I had a brother that went to prison when I was 13 years old and spent 16 years in prison. And then just 3 years after he went to prison, I was kidnapped and held hostage and almost murdered. And then got away 3 days later. And, during all that, everything seemed like it was relatively okay. It had some head lacerations and stuff and survived it. But all these years later, in my life, I've been having a lot of pain, back pain, neck pain, and everything. And so I found out just recently from that my neck actually got broken during that accident and it got fused together improperly. And it's causing a lot of the pain that I'm having, or pretty much all the pain that I'm having now throughout my upper body at least. And so, there's been a lot going on. And I think that it's been my own coping method to just stay busy doing things, keep my mind occupied. I had a lot of bad things happen in the past, and those are just a few little things. I mean, I've had a lot of other stuff going on. And, I just always keep my mind busy. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just coming to the realization that I'm a serial hobbyist. And I think that I need to try to recognize this so that I can try to control it a little bit better and try to stay focused a little bit better on what's really important. It's not bad to have hobbies, but I need to stop bouncing around from hobby to hobby. Over the years, I would say I've wasted a ridiculous amount of money on hobbies just because I'll get into them and then, like I said, I'll lose interest in it after a while and then I'll want to do something else. And usually, like I said, I spend a lot of money on these hobbies usually. So it's not a good thing. I'll give you some examples. And not all is bad, but you know, I guess it's like I said, this is all just to keep my mind occupied, keep me busy, keep me from doing bad things like drugs, keep me from doing crimes, keep me, because I think that anytime someone's idle for too long, they start figuring out what to do with their time. And I mean, these sort of things that I'm doing with my time are much better than the alternatives, I guess. But like for a while, I was mountain biking for a long time, and I got real serious into that and bought an expensive mountain bike, bought all the cool mountain bike accessories and stuff that you could have with that. And that was years back when I was in my 20s. And then I ended up getting into riding around that same time. I got into, kayaking and doing a lot of different kayaking trips, and I, bought a kayak and all the stuff to go with it. And then later on, I think that I got into bikes again and ended up getting another bike because I sold my original mountain bike. But kind of the same sort of thing just keeps going on. I got into different cars for a while and I got a Miata and was just spending tons of money just fixing it up, just for no real reason. I wasn't going to race it. I wasn't going to do anything special with it, but I was trying to like make it into like a little race car for the track, but with no real intent to do anything with it. Sold that, and then I ended up buying a bus. In between, I bought a FJ40 Land Cruiser, played around fixing it up for a while, and I said no real intent with that either, and then I ended up selling that and then bought a bus. I converted the bus into basically a little house or an RV that I could live in. I lived in that for about a year. In the meantime, I had bought a BMW, an older BMW, they call it E30 BMW, just so that I could play around with it and have fun with it. I drove that, and that became my daily driver instead of the Miata, because the Miata at that point became so unpractical with everything I did to it. It wasn't even worth driving anymore. And so I got the BMW, that was fun. I guess I didn't really waste a lot of money on the BMW. It was just more of a good transportation car at the time. But at that time I had two cars, which didn't make sense. So eventually I sold the Miata. But the bus kind of became a hobby for a while because it took the full year of living in it to kind of build it out the way I wanted. And then that's when I met my wife and moved out. But then I made some stupid decisions in between. Like even with my wife, I ended up buying another BMW and I bought an engine for it. I was paying someone to put that engine, swap the engine over, and I ended up paying like halfway of the work, and then the guy flaked out on me and didn't finish it out, and I ended up losing money on that project. And but it was another hobby that it just kind of was trying to take attention from other stuff. And then I guess I don't really remember what came next, but then I ended up during COVID time, I got into drones, and I got real heavily into drones. And I ended up spending so much money on drones, and then I actually got really, really good with drones. I was very impressed with myself with how well I could fly them. I was doing the FPV, first person view flying, where I'm doing it through the goggles. And like going through buildings and doing like fly-throughs of restaurants and stuff like that. And I ended up deciding that with how much time I was spending doing it as a hobby, I could turn it into a business possibly. So I did do that, and I made some money doing some commercial drone work. But then eventually I just realized that it was a lot of liability with that, and the type of work I was doing with it, and people weren't really willing to pay what it took to get the results that they wanted. And so I eventually just said, we need to switch things up. I was actually making, at the time I was making, or I ordered some decals, some stickers for the drone business to kind of promote it, and I was trying to boost some sales and stuff like that, or boost the work. And in the process, I ended up, I bought some stickers, and I decided it'd be cool if I could just make my own stickers, and I kind of looked into that. That led me into the next hobby. It's just weird. I'm always looking for something to do and keep my mind busy, keep my hands busy. And I ended up buying a vinyl cutter and figured out, trying to figure out how to actually print and make my own stickers. And I was messing around with all that, learned some processes, but then wasn't happy with the quality of it. So then ended up upgrading the machines, eventually bought a label maker, and I ended up turning this into an actual business, and I started up what's mikestickers.com. That's the current business that I own right now. I also have a full-time day job, so I'm working a good 70, sometimes 80 hours a week between both jobs. But anyways, it's just keeping me busy, staying occupied, and in the process of learning about all this neck pain that I have, all the injuries from the broken neck that I had in the past, and I'm not being dramatic when I say that. I had someone that said, "Well, don't you mean like it was fractured?" And I was like, "Well, broken and fractured is the same thing." But actually, this was like as bad of a break as you could possibly get. Pretty much, it was broken between my well, it was broken I think on my C2 or C3. I guess at this point in time it would be hard to know for sure because it's all fused together improperly. But between my C2 and my C4, it's just completely fused together. And my neck doesn't have nearly the range of motion, the range of movement that it should, and so there's a lot of pain going on there. A lot of with an injury like mine, most people would end up getting, or a good large amount of people would end up getting paralyzed for life, and the other people would have such bad nerve damage from the nerves being pinched from the vertebrae being basically crushed together that they wouldn't be able to function properly, and you would have tingling, numbness. You would have all kinds of neurological damage that that would show that would show up in that sort of a manner. But he's I'm just seeing a chiropractor right now. I've seen doctors in the past for like when I first had this injury and they didn't notice anything on my neck. I've gone to primary care physicians for complaints about different things. They've felt on my neck and they've never noticed anything like this. So it's kind of shocking to me that it was really a chiropractor that noticed it. But so I'm letting him take the lead and figure out what he thinks is best, and he's starting to try to straighten it out. And I think that he is making some progress because definitely feeling way better already. Just general day-to-day life feels better now. It doesn't hurt when I sit down or get up as much. I don't feel like my spine is pressing together as much anymore. I feel like I'm decompressing. And I feel like my spine is straightening out. I've always had one shoulder that sit lower than the other. I've always had a weird kind of cock to my neck, and it's because of that. When he looks at the x-ray that goes straight through your mouth, looking at the C2 vertebrae, you can see that where it had, in between the C2 and the C3, it's completely shifted. So he thinks that when it broke, it actually completely shifted and refused together in that manner, and it caused my neck to be real crooked. And it's just, that's the way that it's been now. So he's trying to slowly see if he can get it straighter again. And apparently they do stuff like this. They're successful with it. So I'm giving him a good chance to, see what he can do, because I'm definitely feeling better already. I was having a lot of pain in my upper back, kind of right down below my shoulder blade, and he was able to take care of that immediately and get me, immediate relief. So anyways, I'm giving him a shot, see what he can do with this. But, in the process of finding out about this, it's kind of taken me to a new low where mentally I didn't feel very good. I felt like I was hopeless, and, he's telling me that this is only going to get worse over time. And then, kind of coming to the realization that if I end up running out of money and I can't afford the chiropractic care, then, there's not too many alternatives to get relief. And so it's just one of those things that, I don't want to think of what could happen if I can't take care of this, but it takes me to a mental low where I think of bad things. I don't feel good. I think of doing bad things, and I don't want to say anything else about that, but that's when I realized that the hobbies and stuff are important to keep your mind occupied, but I need to try to focus and keep just single hobbies, not too many hobbies. Some of the other things that just popped up in my head, I started collecting watches and spent a ridiculous amount of money on watches. I have camera and video equipment that I started buying and just have a bunch of money in that. I just start up these random hobbies with no clear direction sometimes But anyways, my wife just got home. I'm gonna go help her with the groceries, but I'll catch up with y'all later. All right, guys. Peace. So I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to help the wife get the groceries in. But anyways, as I was saying, I've just really been getting into a bunch of hobbies and with no real clear direction, and it's really been wasting time and money and everything. Excuse me. It keeps me occupied, keeps my mind off of other things, but I need to kind of try to keep a more clear direction. But anyways, don't really know too much the point of this video, but just wanted to kind of get that out because it's something I've kind of been thinking about. Like I said, for me, it's more of just acknowledging, telling other people that I have some sort of a problem with kind of like an addiction to hobbies. You know, I'm a serial hobbyist. Like I said, you got to kind of acknowledge things like that if you want to make any sort of change or correction in your life. So that's what I'm trying to do, you know, acknowledge it, and then hopefully I can fix it. But anyways, just kind of some other examples. You know, I got a boat for a while, spent a bunch of money, not a expensive boat, just this little thing. It's called a pond prowler. For anyone that knows what that is, it's just kind of like a glorified paddle boat, so to speak, but it has kind of a little outboard motor on it that can you know, zoom along the lake at a pretty good pace. And you know, just all that sort of stuff adds up and costs money, takes time, resources, and it takes time away from other stuff. So also, you know, we bought some electric scooters, and that's what we're going to go do right now. So that's kind of fun, gives us something to do. But that's one of the things that I enjoy doing right now is my son wanted an electric scooter, and we used to enjoy riding bikes together, but I have kind of some neck and back problems, and whenever I was riding the bike, it would actually kind of pinch off a nerve in my wrist and make my wrist start to tingle and go numb. And it happened like every single time I rode my bike. And so anyways, now that we have scooters, it doesn't seem to do the same thing because I'm standing up. It was really more of something going on with my neck and the way I was holding my neck when I was riding my bike. And so with the scooters, it doesn't seem to do that. And we have a town that we live in where we can kind of just zoom all around downtown and all over the place on the scooters, and it's pretty fun, pretty safe, and we enjoy doing it. So that's what we're about to go do now. We're going to go hit downtown Georgetown on our scooters and just check it out and see what's going on down there. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Y'all take it easy. Peace.